Everybody stressed on the importance of presentation and pitching, and I think there's no better person than Jack to talk about it. Please help me welcome.
I actually don't like PowerPoint, but we're talking about pitching your presentation, so I guess you have to use it every now and then. So, you wrote your business plan, right? Somebody got interested. And somebody's telling you, come on in. I want to meet you and your team. And now you have to actually pitch your business plan. You have to communicate it. It's no longer, here's my document, please read it. It's now, you've got to tell a story. You've got to walk them through it. You've got to get them excited. Right? So now we're in the pitch stage. Let's say you've taken great advice before this, because for now, you've written a solid business plan. Now what? Right? And this is what I'd like to walk you through. The number one objective, and actually the only objective of pitching a business plan, is to get a term sheet, or get financed, or follow through with that. You're not there to make friends. You're not there to be funny. You're not there, oh buddy, we had a great time. You're there to get a term sheet, or you're there to get feedback that will improve your performance on getting a term sheet later on. But the only objective, you should always keep this in mind. So many entrepreneurs who go in and try and compress the VC. Don't compress it. Try to focus on getting the term sheet and the story, right? Nothing else matters in that pitch. So keep that objective in mind when you're building your presentation. Now here's the challenge, right? You are pitching this. You are talking to an audience. They're not reading it at their leisure, they have the business plan in front of them, drinking their coffee in the morning, flipping through it at their own pace. You are pitching to a live audience. It could work in your favor if you know how to work the crowd. It could work against you if you're not confident and you can't project the knowledge and the know-how of what you're doing. It can work both ways, so be aware of that. Be very aware of that. And we'll talk about this in a moment. Now, before I get to the fundamentals of pitching a business plan, this is really my only rule here. This is something that I've learned the hard way. You are telling a story. I think John talked about this and Paul talked about this. You are telling a story. Nobody wants to listen about only your value add. Nobody really cares, or maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know, but they don't care about just your team or just who you are, just your market, or they want the whole package. That's what's going to excite people. That's really what's going to get people to open up their wallets. That's what's going to get people to tell you come in for another meeting. They want the whole package, which is a story. Here's the market. Here's what we're doing. Here's the maple problem. We'll talk about this a little more. But remember, you are a storyteller, right? Don't just stand there and read from your notes. Hey, I'm here to tell you about my business plan. Don't just stand there and tell them this is an exciting opportunity. Show it, play the part, right? You are the storyteller. Don't forget that. Before we get to the beef of how do you build a good presentation pitch, a little more rules. I know I'm trying to layer these bit by bit, right? You are the storyteller, but there are, a little more subtleties to that. A, your audience can get bored very quickly, so keep it short and simple. Get to the point, right? Even as you're writing your business plan, you're getting to the point. When you do your pitch, always have your points at the top, right? Now I'm going to talk about my market valuation. And then we go into details. Because when that person is listening to you, they know what you're talking about. And never forget the medium. It's an oral medium. You're presenting. Use your hands, use your voice, use your eyes, right? Use humor. Use all the tools we have in an oral presentation. Don't forget that. And finally, know your audience. Paul was talking about, adjusting your business plan for your audience. Adjust your pitch for your audience. If your audience is mostly a technical audience, have a couple of slides that go into greater depth about your technology. If your audience are all medical experts and MDs, have slides that go into greater depth of that. If your audience is very, they don't know where a prostate is or whatever, that's the first thing that popped in my mind. Then, have a slide that explains it to them, right? So always know who your audience is before you craft your pitch, and then make sure that you tell them the story based on what you think they are. So now I'm going to walk you through my tried and true format for a good presentation, right? This is very high level. You may add or remove parts as you see fit, but I will walk you through what has worked for me in my 3 companies, what works for me when I'm quoting and bring other people, right? So, first off, always set the hook. Always. You walk into a room, you say, hello, my name is blah blah, and I'm here to talk to you about X. That's fine, but you've wasted 10 minutes or 10 seconds saying, hello, my name is XX, right? Or Yaghi or Paul, whatever. Ideally, you should start with your hook. Why are you standing in front of this crowd? Hi, listen, I'm going to walk you through my pitch that I use for my decks. I usually have, filling the entire screen, this image. Hey, who's heard of the movie Avatar? Remember, my pitch was 2010, right? Avatar was still a big thing. Who's heard about the movie Avatar, right? Oh, great, beautiful. Do you know that it cost, around $50 million to create the 3D CG effects in Avatar, right? That's a lot of money. And it took almost 2 years or a year and a half from concept to production to get there. It's a painful process. Very expensive, very painful. Do you know why? Because it's a manual process to create 3D content. And I'm here to tell you how we're going to solve that. Right? I said in my hook. I told my audience what I'm about. I'm about 3D content, making it automating 3D content, making it faster and cheaper. I set up something simple that they understand, that I know that most people have heard of Avatar, at least back then. Today I'd probably use something else. And I've used a visual, no text, nothing, right? They look at the screen, they don't have to read, they don't have to waste their brain power, they can focus it on listening to what you're saying. Your elevator pitch, I think we talked about that last session. This is where you use it, right? 30 seconds. You've got 30 seconds to get your audience hooked. Most likely 15, let's say 30 for generosity, right? That's it. If you don't hook your audience in that first slide, Blackberries and iPhones are going to come out, right? They are. I've seen this happen so many times. It's frustrating, right? They're going to come out, yeah, I'm listening to this Joker pitch, right? That's what I think they're right? Most likely it's true, right? You want to prevent that from happening. You want their money. You want to prevent that from happening. You want them to look at you. You are the center of the universe when you are pitching. This slide is what's going to do that. Your first impression, your first slide, your hook. You want to be the center of the universe, like you are right now with me, right? This is what you want your audience to be, right? Very important slide. Like when I do my pitches, I spend half of my budgeted time doing this one slide. I'm practicing this one slide because this is the make or break for a presentation. Never forget that, right? And like I said, I prefer to use images, but it's up to you. The second slide that I find, is very important, and in my opinion, a lot of people miss. You've set up what you're trying to do at very high level in your pitch, fine. A lot of people then get to the meat of it, right? And then they introduce themselves. I like to take a different approach. I like to break up, now that I've got your attention and I've got you interested, let me take a step back and tell you about us. So I can get you even more, the gotcha thing. I want to get you more into it. I'd like to tell them a little bit about who we are and what our key accomplishments are. Before I really tell them what we're doing, right? You're like teasing them. That's why I like this approach, because I tease the audience a little bit. Hey, I've got you hooked and you're listening to me. Nobody's touching their phones. Great. Let me tell you a little bit about us. We're a startup based in Toronto. We're 13 people, blah, blah, blah. We've got 2 patents. We've got X customers, revenue. Whatever you think you can show off with. You're showing off here. The peacock feathers are coming out. You want to keep them interested at this point, right? But the pressure is it's a little less once you've got them. Tell them a little bit about who you are and what you're doing. Very high level. Keep them interested. And give them the key things you've accomplished, right? Have you raised any money before? Say that. Do you have any patents? Say that. Do you have key clients? Say that. Are you working with 400 people? Say that, right? Say 2 or 3 things that really differentiate you from anybody else who might come in that room after you or before you. Right now you're differentiating yourself. Because these VCs or these angels are probably hearing 10 pitches a day, right? So talk a little bit about yourself, not too much. Remember the teasing thing, right? And then finally, the last thing, so many entrepreneurs miss, and it is deadly, right? Deadly. They never, very few people say what they're looking for. These VCs are sitting in their seat, they're hooked, they're interested. Okay, what do you want? Right? Say it up front, is my advice. And this has worked phenomenally. This has worked very well for me. It's worked very well for other people that I've seen it. I've seen other people do it. Say what you want. I'm looking for $1 million, right? Or I'm looking for $3 million. Or I'm looking for 100,000. It doesn't matter. But say what you want up front. Why? Let's take a step back here and put ourselves in the shoes of the VC. What are they experiencing at this point, right? Great. Okay. I like where he's going. I like his company, right? And now, if you tell them what you're looking for, you've anchored them. Now, when they're hearing the rest of your presentation, they know who you are, they know what you're about to do, and they have a very good idea about what the money is. And they're starting, most likely, and the VCs giving money, I actually asked them, went through this process with me. What were you thinking when I was pitching? And most of them are thinking, that's where he's going to use this money. That's why he needs my money, So they're starting to relate what you're doing with their wallets, right? And that is key. It helps them later on make the decision easier to open up. Right? So you always want to give them, you want to give your audience little pieces of information that helps them relate and helps them, helps them get a little closer to what you're doing and what you're doing. So always remember, second slide, my advice, what do you ask? No, up front. Don't be shy about it. A lot of entrepreneurs, this isn't great. This is insane. I've met so many entrepreneurs. What are you asking for? Well, looking for $1 million. Why are you shy about it? Don't be, right? I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying that I've met a lot of people who are shy about the ask. Don't be. Then, my advice is moving on to the market pain, right? Why again is what you're going to tell me you're going to do valuable? I haven't told them what I'm doing yet. But why is it valuable what you're going to do? I remember Paul's presentation very well. I'll never forget it because it was very effective. And he said, he looked around the room, and he's like, chaps, 50% of the men here are going to have prostate cancer or something like that. I forgot what it was. And that was a painful market problem for me. I still remember it 2 years ago, right? And it was very powerful, very effective. What is your market pain? For me, the market pain is that semantical process to create 3D content. And here, I like visuals a lot. I hate text, I like visuals. And I apologize for a lot of text today, but because I know some of you might want to take this and read it, that's why I don't. But I like to, for me, I tell them, listen, you know what, before I tell you what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a crash course on how 3D content is created, right? And then I walk them through the process, I tell them why it's so difficult, why it's so painful, it's a manual, labor-intensive process, blah, blah, blah. And when I pitch this slide, I usually go into my boring tone, right, my monotone tone. Let them feel some pain. I'm using the medium to my advantage. Let them feel the pain that other people feel here. Slow down your voice. It's a boring thing. Nobody wants to do things like they're done today, right? Use the medium to your advantage. And I give them a crash course. So here's the market pain. And you've set up the transition into why you are going to change this, right? The next slide. Here's my text about it. I'm trying to walk you through it. So the next slide after this is, we talked about this market pain. It's very painful. Now here your voice should go up a tempo or two, right? Let me tell you how we're going to solve this. And here's how. We've got a set of tools that automate the creation of 3D content. Here's how they work. Here's a very simple diagram. Blah, 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 blah. Done. Right? This is a very important slide because this is where you're telling people what are you actually doing. If you have a prototype, bring it with you if it's supported, right? I can almost imagine Paul driving in. I don't know how big they are, right? But get pictures, right? If you can't bring it. But I'm having this weird thought of Paul. Let's not go there. Okay. So bring a prototype. Always show people what you're doing, right? Anchor them in the reality of what you've done. If you haven't built it yet, show them, concepts, prototypes, right? But it's very important here to have a nice visual about what you're doing. And the most important thing is to focus your message. I'm going to repeat that again. Focus your message. Why? If you have 3 great ideas, and you're pitching all 3, guess what happens? Where's my phone? Phones come out. Oh God, this started out so good, but he's pitching 3 things to me. I'm lost. Right? Focus your message. If you want to if you have 3 products, that's fine. But focus on the one that you think that the group in front of you is going to like the most. Always focus your message. Keep it nice, clean, and simple. Right? And try to keep it all lined into one story. Right? Here's the hook. Here's the market pain. Here's my solution. Focused on that storyline that we're starting to build. And really the most important thing about this slide right here is you have to answer, before they ask it, you have to answer the question, why are people going to buy this? Or why are companies going to buy this? Companies exist, well, for-profit companies exist for only one reason. Only one reason. It's to make money. Right? You make money to finance R&D and continue growing your company, right? It's a virtuous cycle. Some other people might call it a virtuous cycle, but I ignore those people. I cannot be their friends. But, right? Companies exist to make money. If you can't convince an investor that you can sell this and you can make money off of it, why should they invest in you? They want to make money off of you. Let's be honest about it, right? So you got to show them, you got to answer. Here's the slide where you have to answer, maybe not explicitly, why are people going to buy this, right? Then, okay, I told you about my product, I told you about what I'm building, now how am I going to sell it, right? Don't forget this. Who are you going to sell it to? Where are your niches? Where are your segments, right? Very important to continue the message of focus. You know, this is the product, this is what I'm doing. Focus your niche. If you think you can sell to 12 niches, great, good for you. Which is the first one are you going to focus on, right? Pick one, don't pick 3, right? Say, this is the first one we're going to target. It's very valid then to say, you know, there's 4 other niche or market segments that we can go after once we prove ourselves here. Pick the biggest one, the juiciest one, you know, the one that you can really sink your teeth in. Focus on. How are you going to reach them? Very quickly, right? Are you going to work with partners? Who are these partners? What would they want in return? Are you going to go directly? Are you going to go through word of mouth? Well, just talk very quickly about this strategy. Where are you going to be focused? You know, are you going to be focusing in Toronto? Are you going to be focusing global, right? So it's very important to talk about these details. When are you going to start entering the market? Oh, we have a prototype. It's going to be ready in Q2 of 2012, and in Q3 we're going to get into the market. Very important to set the timeline of how you're going to enter the market. And price. What's your price? How much are you going to sell it for, right? If you have no idea, just try to pick a number at least that is justifiable. If you ask me why $500, you have a good answer for it, right? We've changed our pricing from $10,000 a seat, $1,000 a seat, $5 a month, right? Very fair, very valid. There's no startup I know that hasn't gone through massive upheavals in their business model. But that doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. What you're trying to do here is convince the people in front of you that you know what you're doing. And that it may change, you know. But always have good answers to questions they need. The next slide I transition into, remember the storyline, right? I'm going to go back and summarize very quickly. I hooked them, told them a little bit about us, told them a little bit about the market pain. Here's how we're going to address the market pain, and here's our solution. And here's how we're going to enter the market. Now, once we enter the market, here's the people we're going up against. Do you see that little storyline that's starting to evolve? That's the story I'm talking about. Here's our competitors, right? And again, you don't have to throw the kitchen sink, right? Top 2 or 3 competitors, right? Either as is or segment them into groups, you know. I can't even remember what I had. You know, manual tools, automated tools, other types of tools, right? Who are we playing against? I love competitive slides. You know why? Because you can pick and choose the things you want to compare yourself with, right? Really, I'm serious. This is a sales game. It's a branding exercise. You know, some entrepreneurs, oh, I want to be honest and tell them we don't have feature A, B, and C. Why are you doing that? Leave that for due diligence. You'll get there. Don't worry, right? Always in the competitive slide, try to show yourself in the best light. Pick the 5 or 6 things that you have and nobody else has, right? Put them down. Put your competitors and do little check marks. In my opinion, this is more than enough for a presentation. It's not enough for a business plan. It's enough for a presentation, right? Just get them excited. And if they're interested, they'll ask you questions. And if you want to be extra cautious, you know, have some text or some more depth in the appendix, right? Appendix is beautiful. Throw everything in the appendix that you want to, right? But very simple, sweet, elegant, to the point. Now that we've continued the story arc, Now that we've talked about our competitors and how we stack up against them, how are we going to protect ourselves, right? And here, well, very briefly, you know, we have some patents, or if you're in software, then what are the next IP points that you have? Because patents in software are almost useless, right? What is the next strategy? What is the next wave of innovation that you have? Or are you going for a social play? Or do you have partners who might protect your turf? Or do you have, you know, suppliers who might protect your turf? So on and so forth. But you have to have a compelling story about how are you going to protect your advantage once you're in the market, once people know about it, right? That's the whole point of this slide. Now that we've talked about our product, we've talked about how to enter the market, we've talked about who we're going to go up against. Now, how much money do we need to make all this come true, right? Remember that ask at the beginning? These investors, when you're going through all those details, they have that money amount. This is the slide where you break it down. You know, you have that amount of money that you asked for, let's say $3 million. Here's my runway. My runway means over how long am I going to spend it? You know, here's my cash burn rate per month. Here's how much I plan to spend. Here's how many months I expect it will last me. And here's where I want to spend it on, or what I want to spend it on, right? You want to spend it on patents, you want to spend it on hiring people, you want to spend it on marketing, you want to spend it on R&D. Very important, at a very high level, to explain where that money is going. Again, it doesn't have to be to a plus or minus 1% degree of accuracy, but at least have a good story about why do I want your money, what do I need it for, right? Otherwise, why the hell are you in that room, right? So you have to have a good story of what you're needing that money. Financials and valuation. Now this is tricky, right? Everybody has their own style. Some people like to put a big block of numbers up there. Some people like to put a lot of white spaces. I, for example, like to put a lot of white spaces. I give them the high level, here's at high level my revenue, my cost, and my margin. And I'm very happy to break it down for you. But of course in the appendix I have pages and pages and pages of details. I really have my Excel model there sometimes, right? But it depends on your style, and it depends on your audience. Some VCs like to see a lot of white space. Some VCs don't. One VC, very memorable experience. I had, nice, neat numbers up there. And they're like, yeah, you know what, I don't like this, I want to see plots. Okay, back then I learned my lesson, have plots in the appendix, right? I didn't have it that way. But it's important to know your audience. Ask about the VC, what kind of, ask somebody who's pitched them before, what kind of feedback you get, and so on and so forth. But the most important thing to take away from this slide is you got to know your numbers, right? Eyes closed, how much are you going to spend in Q4 2012? You got to know it. How much do you project you're going to make? Where are you going to make it from? How are you going to make it? How much are you going to spend to make that? You got to know your numbers. The worst mistake a CEO can do, or somebody who's pitching can do, let me open my Excel sheet. You've lost the confidence of the people in the room. Nah, you don't know your numbers. You don't know your stuff in and out. There's a problem. So know your numbers very well. And again, very personal thing. You've got to go through your own paces here. Really, that's my best advice. Paul said, show a lot of people. Okay, now that I've asked you, now that I've told you what I need the money for and how much am I going to spend and what my financials look like, let's take a step back and tell you who's my team and how we're doing it, right? Well, very quick summary of expertise, credentials, and most importantly, their role in the company. What are they going to be doing? What are the gaps that they're filling? Here, let's take a step back and sit in the investor shoes. Here they're saying, okay, if I give these guys some money, can they pull it off or not? Right? Do they have a good management team? I've met so many investors who are proud to say, yeah, I'd much rather invest in a Class A team with a Class B idea than a Class A idea with a Class B team. It's a cliche, but it's true, right? So you got to show that you've got the team, right? And most importantly, the management team, right? You got to have the management team. You can't be one-man show or one-man show. You've got to show that you've got a lot of skills, from management, from operations, finance, the technical chops, project management. You need to show and demonstrate that you've got that covered. And it's very fair to say that this person is not on board. We need your money to hire. Very fair. I had a list of 5 positions that were, here's the people I want to hire, and I talked to them, and we've already negotiated options and salaries and everything. I just need your money to hire them, right? And it turned out that 4 of those people, by the time I got my money, was around to hire them. They told me no.
But, you know, at least I showed the investors that I had the diligence to go and find these people. And when I got their money, you know, my team was very quickly built. These people told me no, very quickly understood. But you gotta show that you know, the most important thing, you gotta show you know where your gaps are and how you're building. The ending. I like to always end it on what are my key risks and what are my key questions, right? I find that honesty with investors pays off. Because when they're gonna ask you the hard questions, I try to preempt them and tell them, look, you know what? Here are the 3 questions, and quite frankly, I'm unable to answer right now. And here's what I need to answer, right? Whether it's, I remember back then it was our pricing model is still, we're still flying through messing with it. We hadn't done it yet. I told them, look, it's an open-ended question that we haven't nailed it down. And most people that I pitched to were very appreciative that I preempted their questions because they had those questions in mind, right? So you know, don't be brutally honest. Don't tell them you have no idea what you're doing, right? But be honest about what are the problems. And here's the spin I love to put on it. I love to ask these questions that I know that the BCM company will be able to help me with answering, right? Show them that they're valuable, right? Taking it up a notch with the BCs, knowing your crowd very well, but it's worked wonders, and it's worked out for me so far, right? This really is what I call the ideal pitch or presentation. I know there's a lot of other things that you can add or remove, operational plans being one, you know, more detailed valuations and financials being another one. But really, I think what I'm trying to do here is get you thinking about a story and getting to know your crowd. If your crowd is looking and craving for an operational plan, find a way to put it in without breaking the storyline. You know, because the story is here's the market, here's the problem, here's my solution, here's how it works, here's the competition. Or sorry, here's how it works. Here's how I'm going to enter the market. Here's how the competition is going to look like. Here's how I'm going to protect myself. And here's what I need your money for so I can evolve in the market. Here's the team that's going to pull it off. Right? That's the story arc I like to follow. Do I still have 2 minutes? Please. Sorry, but I know I'm taking a little extra time, but okay. Very quickly, mistakes you should never do. Right? Charts like this. Never put them up. Don't put complicated stuff up there. Unless you really know your audience and you're sure they're going to like them, right? Most people are going to see this and go, oh, what the hell, right? Keep it simple. The second mistake, you forget to use the medium you're in. The medium you're in is an oral presentation. Use it. You've got body language, tone, so on and so forth, right? I'm not going to even talk about this. Whoever can read this, I'm going to give them $100. 1, 2, 3, done. Who's ready? Nobody. You can't see text that big, so don't put a lot of text, right? Very small, very, very bad. And finally, never forget your telling us. Thank you.